I decided to do a live about, pride destroying families and relationships. I feel like it's so important to talk about, pride. The is a prideful spirit. This arrogance, self righteousness is so important to address this, and I'm going to talk about all the differences, the traits, the reasons behind it, and how to overcome. So the first thing I'll talk about is selfish ambition. When it comes to selfishness, greed, and selfish ambition, we can get carried away with think about our needs only. When it comes to relationships and family, um, sometimes people get carried away and think about me, me, me. And when people have the mentality of just their self and their self-centeredness, it can really destroy families. They go around, think about their self, they have fantasies of, proving people wrong and just showing off. And that can come from the spirit of rejection, the orphan spirit, low self-esteem. So it's really important to know that if you have suffered from mother wounds, father wounds, spiritual abuse, church hurt, if you suffer with the spirit of rejection, you can really destroy your family for just think about yourself, your needs only. It can be very toxic, it it's heartbreaking seeing people lose friendships because they had no empathy. They just thought about themselves, and they've been hurt themselves, and now they are becoming a hypocrite. Um, they become the person that hurt them, and they are looking for revenge. They're just full of bitterness. They're full of bitterness. They're full of greed. They're full of selfish ambition, and now they are just trying to prove themselves. They're trying to build a name. They're trying to build a name for themselves, and they just lost. They're losing their integrities and morals. They just think about themselves, what they want. They don't mind stepping on people to get far. They're social climbers, and they don't mind hurting people in the process. And it's not good. It's very prideful, and they hurt people in the process, and they hurt a lot of people. But because they're so, they're worried about their image. They worry so much about their image. They can't say sorry. They don't feel the need to go counseling or get deliverance or get healing because they're worried about their image. So I think it's really important to know that if you do start doing performative stuff, like if you like in ministry or business and you have a title, is you can still need deliverance. You can still need counseling. It doesn't matter how much you give a word, you preach, you teach. You still might need deliverance. But some people are so worried about their image. They worry about their image so much that they don't mind jeopardizing friendships. They don't mind cutting people off because they're so scared of their image being tampered with. Oh, if people find out I did this, oh, my image will be destroyed. They're just so obsessed with image. And it's really important to know that you're a human being. You can give word, you can give a prophetic word, you can teach, you can, preach. You have a title. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden you don't need counseling, you don't need deliverance, because ministry is not easy. Sometimes you get hurt, you get betrayed. A lot of people going through betrayal and it didn't break them. It didn't break them. They go through betrayal and it didn't break them. It made them more smart, made them more aware, they learned a lesson. But some people get betrayed and they turn into the person that hurt them. And Jezebel has convinced them that, oh, don't worry, all you need is power. All you need is power. That's why they're in denial. They're like, spiritual abuse is not real. They say that spiritual abuse is not real. They say, oh, you know what, you're too sensitive. But they have desensitized themselves, and they deluded themselves into thinking, oh, it was character building, but they haven't. Their character has been built. They have become more egotistic. They're more arrogant, and they're trying to prove themselves. They're trying to prove themselves. Oh, look at me, They think that character building is destroying somebody and destroying their self-esteem, but it's not. They feel like, oh, I turned out okay, but they haven't turned out okay. They go around abusing people and they're not even aware that they're doing it. They're thinking, oh, you know, um, my mentor, she humbled me. She really put me in my place, but their mentor was emotionally abusing them, exploiting them, and they don't want to admit, they don't want to face up to that. They've been scammed, they've been exploited, but because they're so obsessed and they want power and revenge, Jezebel has convinced them that all they need to do is get power and a title, and prove the haters wrong. And in game mode, they're just constant seeking power, and their family gets destroyed in the process because when they're bitter and they have this, witchcraft and bitterness, sometimes it can destroy their family. They're thinking, why is my family like chaos? It's because it's not that Jezebel spirit. It's not real power. They think, oh, I got money, I got power, but there's no peace there. The people are struggling with their mental health. They're struggling with their finances. Got family, in pain. They're feeling hopeless and suicidal. So you see their money, you see their power, but there's no peace there. There's no harmony. There's no unity. Everyone's split up. There's division, and there's no real love there. And people don't realize morals is important. Values is important. Having values and know what you stand for and what your vision is so important, because you can get carried away. Jezebel tells you about your idols. If you have fear and you have idols, Jezebel can say, you know what, you need this to survive. And some people struggle with spirit of fear and spirit of rejection. They think, oh, I need this power, and they don't really need that. But Jezebel has convinced them that all they need is power and title. You can start. Jezebel convinces people that you could step on people, you can control them. If you just control them and step on people, you can get far. But that's not real power. So it's so important to understand that when it comes to selfish ambition, it could come from pride, like, oh, it's all about me. I have done nothing wrong. This is me, me, me. They have this me, me, me mentality that, oh, I know best. I know best. I did the right thing. They don't want to talk about their money habits. They don't want to talk about their flaws because they think they're perfect, and that's really dangerous in a family and in a relationship. When you think that your ministry was perfect, you think that you're a perfect person, that people should be grateful. Oh, they should be grateful, But if you go around with false humility and people have to walk on eggshells, you can really destroy relationships. So it's so important to let go of the pride. Always be humble. Always be humble all the time, because when it comes down to, selfish ambition, it could destroy families. It could destroy friendships. So it's so important to know that, let go of the pride. You don't always know everything. So the second one we're talking about is social climbing. Social climbing, nothing wrong with socializing and, building relationships. But if you have to step on people, if you're scamming somebody and you betray somebody, that's not of God. That's not godly. It's not good to step on people to get far. People get burnt out. There's people that are burnt out. They're suffering their mental health right now. They have low self-esteem. They feel really burnt out because people are just using them. They're just thinking, oh, what can I get from her? They don't think, oh, you know what, I could give back, I could do stuff. But some people are just opportunists, and the person's there thinking they got a relationship, but they just have an opportunist around them. And it's so important, especially if you're doing ministry, you have to understand that there's some people that are friends, and there's some people that are ministry. Like you should see their traits. Like if you realize they have no filter, they have no self control. Oh, I'll just say what I say, I'll just say how I feel, and they walk around. You could tell they're not healed. They shouldn't be your friend. You should see them as ministry. Like, oh, you know what? I can minister to this person. I can set boundaries with this person and just be like, you know what, this is just ministry. But some people get caught up in it. They see red flags and they think, oh, you know what? They have this codependent relationship. They go, oh, this person, I could be their friend, but they see red flags, but they still form a bond. Like, I need you, you need me, and it shouldn't be like that. If someone's toxic, they should be ministry. They shouldn't be your friend, because someone that has no morals, no integrity, they especially if they suffer with the orphan spirit and they're toxic. No, there's nothing like, you could be suffering with the orphan spirit and you have empathy, you have self-awareness, and you want to grow and heal. But some people suffer with the orphan spirit and they're very selfish. They don't care who they screw over. They don't care who they tear down with them. They feel like they have nothing to lose. So They're like, oh, I'm going to destroy your reputation. I'm going to destroy your life because they feel like they have enough to lose. So when you're trying to help somebody that feel like they have enough to lose, you get pulled down with them. And you have to realize it's so important to set boundaries with these type of people because they will just tear you down with them. You might feel like, oh, I want to help them. I want to help them get better. I want to help them to just, help them to heal. But some people are not into self-improvement. They're not into growing and healing. So they, instead of, you know, being grateful and saying, thank you for helping me, they tear you down with them. They're not ready. They're cowards. They're cowards, they're bitter, they want to be a victim. They don't want to change, they don't want to step out their comfort zone and move on and step into the new. They rather just sit there and be a victim. They rather just stay there and be a victim and go, oh, this is what happened to me. They keep talking about the past and you're trying to bring them to the future and help them change. But they just want to stay there. They want to be like, oh, I'm just victim. I'm just poor victim. But, they don't want to grow. And when someone does want to grow, they rather tear you down with them. So it's so important to understand when it comes to social climbing, they see people as footstools. A lot of toxic people see people as footstools. They think, oh, this person can help me get this far. And then when they get somewhere, they're thinking, oh, it was me that did it. It was all me, I'm self-made. It's so important to know that when it comes to, social climbers, they just pretend that it was all them. Like, oh, I'm self-made, no one helped me, and they just forget about you the whole time, and they get so arrogant and prideful. See, pride again. They get arrogant and think, oh, it's just me, I have all these opportunities, and it's just me doing everything, and they just pretend that you didn't do a thing, and people get burnt out. That's how people get depressed, and they get exploited because as Christians we're told to just do the right thing, and always say yes, but it's so important to have boundaries with these type of people because you don't want to suffer with mental illness, you don't want to suffer with burnout, you don't want to be end up crying all day, spend a whole year healing and fasting, just constantly crying and being in pain because you just didn't have boundaries. It's so important to have boundaries. So the next one is betrayal. Betrayal is painful because you don't see it coming. And when people get betrayed, they could become angry. They can become bitter. And it's so important to know that when it comes to betrayal, you have to heal properly. Some people get betrayed and they turn into the person that hurt them. And they become so bitter. They become so angry. They just lash out and they walk around, hurting other people. They have no self-control. They're rebellious towards leaders. At church, they become so rebellious. There's nothing wrong with, if you got concerns, you can talk. But some people nitpick. They nitpick leaders. They're difficult. They be difficult on purpose because they're so hurt. They're so hurt. So they walk around, they're bitter. They just have no they have no self-control when it comes to their mouth. They say harsh things, they say critical things, and they say horrible things, and they go, oh, just say how I feel, and they act like they're so authentic, but they just have they have no filter, they have no morals. And some people are like that, and they feel like if they just preach, they just teach, and they give money to church, they feel like that's enough. They don't understand that it's important to have morals. It's important to have morals, it's important to have integrity and to do the right thing. But if they don't do that, they act bitter. They go, oh, after I gave money, I gave my time, but I was at church for this 30 years and I don't get nothing in return. But it's because they're so bitter and they have a horrible attitude, they have no morals, they have no integrity. They just don't mind what they say to people. They have no self-control. They betray others. They don't care who they betray. They just think, oh, you know what? I've been here, I've been given money, but they just have no respect. And it's so important to have respect when it comes to relationships and family. So the next one is idols. When people have idols, they'll try and do anything to keep their idols. If people want money and power, they want the kingdom marriage. They want the house. They want money. Some people do anything to get it. And when you don't have morals, when you don't have integrity, when you don't know how to compromise, you're not selfless, you can hurt your family. Because you just put up with anything. You go, oh, you know what? If you put strangers before your family, is alarming, it's worrying. You know, God doesn't want us to do that. And you shouldn't sit there proud of yourself, puffed up with pride, thinking, oh, I'm a good person. When you're screwing your family over, it's not good. You know, it's so important. Mental health, you got to take your mental health seriously, and your family. You got to consider others. You know, what God wants us to be selfless. And this performative mindset people have, oh, preaching, giving money, being obsessed with titles, that's not what God wants for us. Like, it's so important to know that when it comes to, you know, selfish ambition, having pride. Like, you idolize in ministry. Some people idolize ministry, they idolize power and money, and they get so obsessed with money, they don't realize how much they're destroying their family. Like, they have this unrealistic expectation when it comes to their family, and it could lead to burnout because they're so obsessed with power. Jezebel convinced them that all they need is power. Jezebel just doesn't make people feel like, oh, you know what, family is important. No, Jezebel is just about power. You know, destroying families, power and division, and that, especially the Levitation spirit, it causes, like, you know, anger, misunderstandings, and just like chaos and pride, and never having no remorse or empathy. Like, just being humble, say, you know what, I didn't see where I went wrong, but I'm sorry. Like, there's no remorse there, just division and war. And Jezebel convinces people that, yeah, you get your money, you're gonna be powerful, me, and it's just like, that's not what God wants for us. Is to be, He wants us to be selfless and kind and being selfless. But when you're in idolatry, it's even about sacrificing the idols, sacrificing their children. And I'm seeing it. They're sacrificing their children for money and power. And people are just struggling with mental health because they have this unrealistic expectation. You're destroying families. No compassion, no empathy, you just want money and power, and don't realize it's important to. There's nothing wrong with wanting money. Like, nothing wrong with wanting money and being resourceful and know how to manage it. But some people don't know how to manage their money. They get money and they're obsessed with it, and they overly spend, and they're giving all their money away, and they're not being wise. It's what God told us not to be lovers of money, but some people don't know how to use money properly, and they have no self-control when it comes to their finances. And it needs to be taught more about being smart when it comes to money. Next one is exploitation and entitlement. Exploitation and entitlement is getting out of hand. People are getting scammed. They're overgiving, they're being overextended, and it's ruining their mental health. And it's not okay. Exploitation is not okay. People are getting hurt by churches. There's scammers coming in and scamming people, and they're getting exploited. People are getting so prideful, they're getting so arrogant, and they don't mind. They just have entitlement, thinking, oh, you should be able to do this for me. Oh, you should do this for me. You know, I'm your friend, I'm your mum, I'm your father. You should be doing this for me. They have this entitlement, and they have this unrealistic expectation, and it's our job to show people that this goalpost that your mother or your mentor, your coach, your pastor, your friend is moving. Don't take it personally if they never feel like it's good enough. These people are empty. They're so empty. They're looking for a void that cannot be filled. Only God can fill the void. That void they're trying to fill, it can't be filled. So whatever this hamster wheel that you're on, come off it, because it will never be enough. I'm telling you from now that what you do is never enough. You do a lot of stuff for them and go, what have you ever done? They just have this unrealistic expectation, and I'm giving you permission to come off it. I'm giving you permission to come off this hamster wheel they have you on. It will never be enough. Only God can fill the void. So this people-pleasing mindset you have, thinking, oh, they'll see me one day, they're going to see how good I did, they're going to see how well I've done. You come off the hamster wheel. Come off this hamster wheel. It'll never be enough what you do for them. You could take the coat off your back. You could do anything for them. They're like, what have you done for me? They're empty. They're empty human beings that need they need to fill the void. Only God can fill the void. They have this empty void that only God can fill. And they're in denial, and they're empty. That void they're trying to fill, only God can fill that void. It'll never be enough. What you do is, it'll never be enough. I give you permission to come off this hamster wheel they put you on. I'm giving you permission to come off the hamster wheel they put you on. It will never be enough. They're very, very prideful. It will never be enough what you do for them. So come off this hamster wheel and enjoy your life and have boundaries and take care of your mental health. I'm warning you, because people, the amount of things they've done to somebody and the person is still unsatisfied is really scary. Like, you just have to put God first and set boundaries and let go of approval from them. Next one is they have people that have no integrity and morals. They're dangerous. They really are dangerous. People that have no integrity and morals, because they don't care about screwing you over. And when you start to understand someone's behavior, when you start to see how selfish they are and stuff like that, it helps you set boundaries. It helps you realize that when it comes down to it, you're prepared. So it's so important to protect yourself. You can grave up people that they're looking to get a rise out of you. They try to do provoking stuff. It's so important to know that when it comes to people that have no morals and integrity, they don't mind who they screw over, but you just have to guard your heart. It said in the scripture, guard your heart. Guard your heart, because some of these people, they have such low self-esteem. They preach at church, they speak, they encourage others, and they do good things for people. They give money, but their heart is hardened. They're bitter, and they're deep down inside. There's a void there. There's this empty void that can't be filled. And people that are bitter and toxic, they have no integrity and morals. They don't mind cursing you in private and then smile in your face. A lot of people do that. They smile in your face and they're cursing you behind the scenes, and they enjoy the pain you go through. They might go, if you need anything, let me know. They love drama. They love drama. They do. And then you're there thinking, why are they tolerating this? But they enjoy it. You can walk away from people that have no integrity and morals. Next one is the lack of empathy and remorse. When someone has no empathy and no remorse, it's so important to, when you're really happy, you have good news, or you have something coming up, it's really important to, or something really bad happens, it's so important to just not talk to this person about it, because they might just gaslight you. They objectify you, go, oh, you're being a drama queen. Oh, you're being a drama queen. Or like, if you got good news, they'll be like, oh, that's nothing, like, oh, and they just change the subject and make it about them. It's so important to know that someone that has no empathy and compassion, they can really set you with unrealistic expectations. So it's so important to know that if someone that has no empathy and compassion, that's dangerous, and it's important to keep a healthy distance from this person. Keep a healthy distance from this person. Don't, to tell them your secrets, and you have to be vulnerable with them. Just keep things short and sweet. The next one is lip service and performance. This lip service performance, it's not deep. Someone, if you see someone and think, oh, they perform well, they can preach, they can pray, you have to understand their heart. You have to test the fruit of the Spirit. It's not just about the performance. It's not about like how good they can preach. You have to see if they're ignorant. They could be an ignorant person. They could be very selfish. They could be very cunning and passive aggressive. So performing and preaching, that's good. But if the person is like has no morals and it's just a performance, like when the mic is off, they have a horrible attitude. They're ignorant. when the mic's off and they're not on stage, what is their character like when the mic is off and the camera stop rolling? What are they like? Next one is title obsessed. Someone that's obsessed with titles is worrying, because they're not really trying to form a bond. They're not trying to be selfless, not trying to be patient, not trying to be a patient person, not trying to be, kind and selfless. Everything's just about performance. And it's really important to know that when it comes to, just being obsessed with titles, social climbing, and trying to get far with titles, that shows a person low self-esteem. They're trying, because they was a black sheep of the family, maybe they were the black sheep of the family, there was like the forgotten child or the black sheep, and they was not cool at school. Now they want a title so they can be that mean girl, be the one in the family that gets to speak and use their voice, and now they could just get their revenge. That's worrying. Like if someone was a black sheep of the family, or they weren't cool at school, they weren't popular at school, and they tried to be a leader, but just because they didn't fit in, they will now want a voice, they want a title, they want to get that mean girl fix. But you have to be careful, because leaders have some leaders, they're bitter and they want revenge, and they go, oh, you know what, their leader was horrible to them, their leader was abusive to them, and now they want to get revenge and do the same thing. But you can be the change. If your leader was horrible to you, was abusive towards you, you can be that change. And some people want titles for the wrong reasons, so you have to understand that you can be the curse breaker. So the next one is blind loyalty. A lot of people have blind loyalty, especially some passive mothers in churches. There's nothing but witchcraft attacks, word curses, and it's still there. They still go to that church. There's been slander, gossip about them, but they're just too coward to leave. Just have this blind loyalty. They have blind loyalty, and they're passive, they're weak, they have no backbone, they have no self-respect, and they're calling it humility. But it's so important to know that you can be the change. Don't be a passive mother, don't be a passive leader, don't be someone passive. Pray for the person. If someone's speaking word curses over somebody, you can pray in the spirit, and you can pray for them and hope well for them and build them up. You don't have to gossip and go, what that person said wasn't good, and blah blah blah, and gossiping. You don't need to gossip. You can build that person up. But some people, they are sadists. They went through abuse themselves, and they're enjoying it. They enjoy seeing other people go through it because they want revenge. But you don't have to be like that. You don't have to be in blind loyalty. You don't have to be passive. You don't have to be a passive Christian. You don't have to sit there and be a coward and have no self-respect for yourself and just sit there and take abuse and wonder why you can't accomplish anything. Wonder why you're always going through financial attacks. Wonder why there's always mental illnesses in your family. Wonder why that there's deaths in the family. Wonder why you're always in hospital all the time. Wondering why you can't get a stable job, and you're sitting in the same church for years and years, and you want a breakthrough, and you're a coward. You're a coward. You're scared to move. Don't be that passive. Don't be that passive Christian that know full well that it's time to leave, but you're just too scared. You're too much of a coward. You have fear. You want to prove haters wrong. You're trying to build a name for yourself and try and prove yourself. Look, I preach. I prophesy. Why can't you see me? Don't be that desperate Christian. Don't be that passive, weak Christian trying to get revenge, trying to be bitter, trying to sit there and get your reward, and then nobody likes you, and you want to be a victim. It's so important to understand that, and being passive, being passive, having no self-respect, being a doormat, and just being agreeable and just sitting there and waiting and being passive is not humility. A lot of people think that, oh, I don't know. They say, oh, yeah, I don't know. They think that means they're humble, but no, it doesn't mean that. It just means that, it just means that, you're just passive, you're weak, and you need to be bold. I hope that helped. If you need any counselling or coaching, prayer requests, or anything else, you can just email me. Thank you for listening. Bye.